All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the LYF Matters Podcast. This is me, Kiana Monroe, and I'm your host, of course. And we have a very special guest. It has been a long time coming. You guys, we have been trying to get on this page for a little while now, and I have finally got my really good friend, Samuel, here. And he is so amazing with his point of view and his perspective on relationships and marriage and all that jazz. And I wanted him to come on the show and just to give his input. So Samuel, welcome. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for
Thank you.
coming. Go ahead and tell people a little bit about yourself and all your specialties before we get started.
Okay. I also have to say that I'm really glad that we finally got to do this because this is something that was like hanging over my head. Like, every time you're like, "Can we do this on this date?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't." Yeah, that was bothering me. So glad to be here. Glad to be here. A little bit about myself. So I'm gonna say this in two different ways. I
Okay.
think first of all, I know that there's a way I think that society expects me to identify myself. I'm gonna do that. But I think personally for me, I really just want to say that I'm human. And that's why I call myself the waking human on Instagram because I think that sometimes we forget that we're human when we identify with all the roles that society gives to us. And
Mhm.
for me, what a waking human is that I realize that I'm someone who was born into a society, born into a home. I've been given so many messages about what's right, what's wrong. I've been shown so many boxes, so many definitions, and I think for a while I unconsciously followed those. And
Mhm.
for me, recognizing that I'm human just means that all those influences are things that I'm trying to deconstruct now
Mhm.
and recognizing that it's a very complicated process. And I need to remember always that I'm human because it means that when those things show up from the past in the present,
Mhm.
I am allowed to give myself grace and to redefine myself consistently while also realizing, hey, you cannot be perfect. So this is really how I want to be identified as a human being. That being said, um, I do have a degree in medicine. I got my MD from the Caribbean. It's a tiny island in Saint Kitts. I think I graduated in 2011. I went back to Nigeria, which is where I'm originally from.
Mhm.
I practiced medicine for a couple of years, and in that time, I think I realized that a lot of my patients were struggling with their relationships. I worked in a private hospital. These people had money, they had thriving businesses, they were doing amazing. But, there was a lot of struggle at home. And whenever they trusted me enough to be vulnerable and share, it was like the home was broken, even though they were still together. And that would touch me. And I would take out time from my regular shift and say, you know what, bring your wife later on in the day, bring your husband later on in the day. And we would sit down, we would have conversations. And with the little counseling skills that I had at the time, I would try to help. And I think I found that that was really fulfilling for me. I was doing it for free, right? I was being paid as a doctor, and then I'd do this on the side for free. And it was like I'd be really looking forward to it.
Mhm.
And when you see those changes, little changes in the family, someone comes in, they're smiling. That was great for me. So when I moved to Canada in 2016, okay, I'm gonna back up a little bit. When I shared with my parents that I wanted to leave medicine and go into counseling,
Mhm.
um, you can imagine the reaction from African
Can't
parents.
imagine. Yes.
Like, what are you talking
What
about?
are
Like,
you
you're a
talking about?
doctor? Yeah. You're already helping people. You're already like, what are you doing?
Mhm.
And so, I just kind of left it alone. But when I came to Canada, it was just me and my family. And I was like, hey, you know what? This is a chance to start afresh, do something different. Because for medicine, I would have had to take the exams again. to
Mhm.
practice as a doctor in Canada. So I said to myself, instead of spending 2 years trying to do something that I was already doing back home,
Mhm.
I could as well just spend that time and go into what I really want to do.
Mhm.
So I applied, I got into school. I'd be graduating in December. So what I'm doing right now is a master's degree in counseling psych. And it's honestly been amazing for me. Uh, Another good thing I think I've realized is that the more I know now, about the way the mind works,
Mhm.
about trauma, it it helps me realize that I didn't really know a lot.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of things that I used to think were a certain way in the past, maybe a little bit of that black and white thinking, you can't do this. It's just learning and doing this course has opened my eyes to the fact that, yeah, I'm in the right field. And yeah, I think that's it. So I would say I'm a medical doctor, I'm a therapist in training. By January, I would be able to say therapist. I'm a father of two kids, 5 and 6, boy and girl. Obviously married. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, great. So with all the experience that you've had working, with people and having the passion and the desire um, for counseling, when we think about society today and the world that we live in today,
Right.
and dating and how people date, and their expectations, right? And their desire for getting everything on a list that they create, right? And being intentional with dating. And so me, I'm really big on self-worth,
Right.
self-love,
Yeah.
self-validation, and becoming everything that you require someone else to be, right? And teaching people to focus on themselves, right? So the overspill of a filled cup benefits everyone else on the saucer.
Right.
And what is your, I know what my opinion is, we'll get into it. What is your opinion? What are your thoughts about dating with intention and integrity in society, in the world we live in today?
Hmm. That is such a complex question. Okay.
What
I'm
is
gonna
it that you're noticing the most?
okay. One of the things I was talking about with another therapist the other day was this idea of self-worth.
Mhm.
I feel like it's a paradox of sorts, and I'll tell you what I mean. So I'm a therapist. Is it okay or is it possible for me to go around believing that I'm a therapist if no one else believes that I am? Like if I never have clients, if I say I'm a therapist and for the next 5 years I don't have one single client, is it possible for me to still believe that I am? Am I going to be able to still convince myself? Now, the flip side of that is
I have my thoughts.
right. Okay. Okay. Now, the flip side of that is I I also don't want to be in a position where if someone says I'm a bad therapist, I absorb that. I need to have a bit of knowing that a bit of that internal knowing that I'm a therapist and maybe this is how good I am or these are my skills and this is what I can do.
Mhm.
And that's why I call it a paradox because it's like you do need people to believe in you for you to believe in yourself. But you also need to believe in yourself without people believing in you.
So my feedback to that would be this, right? Um, you're a therapist, right? Because you did the work to become a therapist,
Right.
right? Now, you may not choose to practice, right? You may not offer therapy services for however long you choose, but that does not take away, right, from the credentials that you earned,
Right.
regardless of whether you choose to practice that or not,
Right.
right? And then, so me and the self worth thing, I always tell people, what are your confirmed experiences? And I actually taught that in a conference over the weekend. And if you get consistent feedback, right, that confirms you're a therapist, not a bad therapist, but a therapist. People, you can't pick and choose, or you can't control how people receive you necessarily. You can do your best to offer your service, and they receive you based off of their experiences that they bring into your session, right? But that shouldn't be the deal breaker
Right.
to get the validation from other people, the acceptance or the approval from the other person, right? You are still a therapist.
Right.
People receive you in different ways based off of their self-concept, right? But you are still a therapist.
Right.
If you stop practicing
Right.
therapy and offering services, you are still a therapist, right?
No, I get it. Honestly, and that's why I'm calling it a paradox, because whether people believe I'm a therapist or not doesn't change the fact that I am, which is what you're saying, right? Like, you have it in you that this is who you are. But what I'm saying is, am I going to be able to believe that if no one, this is about the relational piece that's in us, to say that, if I had you to say, like you're telling me right now, you're a therapist, even if people don't believe it, but you're confirming that for me. What if I had no one to say, like, how long would I be able to keep telling myself that I'm a therapist, even though it's true? See, that's the thing, because sometimes we tell people, you have worth. It's not a lie. It's a fact. Why don't they believe it? And I think that takes us, I think, to the, I want to say, the history of how we are made, of how we grow up, of all the factors that, because when we intentionally recognize that paradox, that we do need people to believe in us, then I think this is where we then begin to create our tribes. Because for a lot of the people who struggle with self-worth, there's a story behind that. There's a point where this person really believed in themselves. They thought, I'm this, I'm this, I'm that. And then someone out there said, no, you're not. The mom, the dad, the aunt, the uncle, the boyfriend, consistently, over and over and over and over. And then you get to this point where it's like, you begin to have all that self-doubt. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, the very fact that you have to tell some people and say you have self-worth, you're worthy, like, people need that, is what I'm trying to say. There's a part of us that it's about being seen. It's about being recognized, like, oh yeah, you are this thing. Because if I was offering my services as a therapist and no one was coming for 5 years, 10 years, how long would Sam, it's not a lie, I am a therapist, I know that. But how long would I be able to say I'm a therapist? At some point, would I begin to say, you know what? Maybe there's something wrong. Maybe I'm not so,
Yeah. I think you're right. People are always going to be worthy. And sometimes we do need people, not necessarily, it's okay. It's a good thing for others, to validate. It's not saying, oh, you don't need anyone's validation. It shouldn't be a requirement or a tool that changes your mind of yourself. Look, how you see yourself should be first, right? And then a reminder from other people would be great. So in relationships, right? People are just like, well, this is what I tend to see in society and hear all the time. I need this person to be this. I need them to be that. I want them to be this. I want them to be that. They need to offer all of the things that they're needing, all of the things that they're requiring, and everything that they want from a significant other. They are not those things to themselves. And I feel like when you are loving to yourself, when you are good and kind, right, and compassionate, and whatever it is that's on their list, when you are those things to yourself,
Yeah.
and you meet someone else, they should be a confirmation
Right.
as a
No,
reflection.
I
You
get
know,
it. Yeah.
does that
Yeah.
make sense? It's just
Yeah.
like, I know that you are what it is that I want,
Right.
because it's like I see a reflection of myself in the mirror. Your
Right.
love is a confirmed love that I have for myself. I already have it,
Right.
but it's a confirmation from you because I see in you what I give to myself.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Right. No, absolutely. I think, yeah, I think I recognize what you're saying in the sense that I have to first believe that I'm a therapist. I have to, the journey, the journey has to start with me. I have to see it, I have to believe it, I have to recognize it. And then if someone else is seeing it, that's another piece. As opposed to me not believing it.
Mm-hmm.
Um and looking for someone else to say, well, you're a therapist, and then it's
Yes.
almost like I become dependent on like I don't know myself, so I'm
Right.
waiting for people to like say, oh yeah, you're a therapist, and then I'm gonna be like, yeah, 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 I am a therapist. But I think, how do we get to that point where we're able to say I am this, is what I'm trying to explore. How do we get to that original point where we're able, because I hear you, I think that it would be amazing if people could see themselves, but the question I'm asking is, are we able to see ourselves without people seeing us?
I would say in my own experience, right? Because I try to bring the experiences I have with myself when talking to couples or talking to people about dating.
Right.
And I always say love is something I recognize, right?
Oh,
And in order for me to recognize it, I have to know it. I have to have experienced it. You know what I mean? Um, you can recognize when someone is being selfish,
right,
right, or inconsiderate,
right,
right? You can recognize, I don't know, hate or jealousy, because once upon a time you may have been that yourself,
right,
right? And a question that I tend to ask people is, what is it like to experience you? Do you know what it's like to experience yourself? Have you experienced yourself? Right? I have this activity that I do with my Life Matters tribe, right? And they have these jars. And one of the things is, I say, what is your desired lifestyle versus a current lifestyle, right?
yeah.
Behavior patterns and habits that you have that don't serve who you are or the life that you would want to
Or where
have
you're trying to go.
or where you're trying to go. What are those consistent habits that you want to change, right? Because it's important to identify the habits that do not serve you, that are not good, so that you acknowledge them and you can assess, and then you can make some changes,
Okay.
right? And then what is the desired lifestyle look like, right? That's sometimes where visualization comes into play,
Right.
and that's where the experience of you comes in, right? So what is the desired lifestyle meaning loving yourself first? What is my loving me style, right? So most people can't even explain that. They don't know. I love flowers. I love candles. I love, at the end of the week, treating myself to something sweet, right?
Right.
These are ways that I show me that I
That you
love
love you.
that I
Right.
love me, right?
Right.
What are my love languages? Now I know my love language, right? What does it
Right.
mean, acts of kindness to myself? What does it mean to compliment myself and say loving
Right.
things to
Right.
myself? What is
Right.
it like? All those actions, right?
Right.
I am experiencing love by giving
Right.
it to me. I recognize it, right? I know how it makes me feel. And my desired lifestyle looks like these things, right? So if my current behavior habits are not that, I need to change it to my desired habits, right? So because I've taken the time to acknowledge what those behaviors look like, acknowledge what they feel like, experience what that feels like, right? I am moving and flowing in the love that I need and want. So when I'm dating someone else and they show it to me, I can recognize it. That's how I am with myself. I know what this feels like, because regardless of whether I'm dating somebody and they give it to me right away, I can date someone and recognize that's not love. That's not the type of love that I want. Right? That's not the type of love that I want. And I know what kind of love I want because they give it to me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you know what? I hear you speaking about, I would say, two pieces. Excuse me. The first piece would be awareness. You see, that whole conversation you're having of paying attention to like flowers and sweet stuff, and I hear awareness in that. The second thing I hear from you is intention. Is, why am I doing this? Okay, so I'm looking for a love that has A, B, C, and D. I'm looking for a life that has A, B, C, and D. So this is where I'm going. And what are some of the things that I can do to get myself to the place that I am trying to go? Now, I am trying to add one more piece, and I'm putting that in the beginning, and I'm saying, why do I like these things that I like? So the question I would ask you is, why do you like flowers? Why do you like the sweet stuff? Because there's a reason. And recognizing that the things that you identify with today are an extension of the relationships that you've had in the past. It also brings an awareness to say that it's my relationships that have defined me so far. It's my relationships that have made me feel the way I feel about myself, that have influenced the kind of things that I like, that have influenced the way that I want to be loved, that have influenced the red flags that I can identify or not identify. So there's a why. There's a why am I here? And the reason that that's important is because, you see, once you begin to have that self-awareness and you're saying, this is what I like, this is what I want. In order for you to become intentional about creating a life, you have to, the awareness of your why makes you more flexible to making changes that can take you to the place you want to be. Because if you said to yourself, I like flowers, and then you said, but wait, why? Because maybe you like roses, and this guy who's loving you is giving you lilies. And you're like, no, I hate that stuff. That's not love to me. But then is it? Is there a piece of you here that, because this new guy, he's every other thing, but you're like, no, lilies are a red flag. And obviously, we're just using this as an example, right? You know what I mean? Lilies are not red flags, okay? But it's like, this is what I want. Because maybe this guy that you're dating now is what you actually want, but maybe you're replaying a whole history. And this is why people meet people sometimes have healthy habits. I met someone the other time who said, if I'm in a relationship and we don't fight for a couple of weeks, I have to start some trouble.
Oh my goodness.
Right? And I said, it's like peace. It's suggestive of something bad. And I said, well, you know what? I really do hear you. And yes, you can start all that trouble. But the question I would have is, where's that coming from? Why Why is that something that appeals to you? Because maybe
Yeah.
there's a place for you to begin to say, you know what, maybe I want peace. Let me try this out. Let me change this. And maybe the way that you begin to experience peace is about being in a peaceful relationship. So this is what I mean about, like, in order for us to have those things that we want, many times it's the experience that defines it. What makes me so confident in my ability to be a therapist is because when I'm being a therapist, it actually works. It's because my professors at school are saying, Sam, great job. It's because when my grades are coming in, the society is confirming it. I also want to know inside of me, but
Yeah.
there's that relational piece. So, I think, and in my head, I'm just forming this now, but it's just like
Mhm.
that why piece, that awareness piece, and that intentional piece, where you're like, it's interchanging, right? You're
Yeah.
always aware. Why am I doing this? Why do I want this? And if this is what I want, well, where am I trying to go? Because if I want to make $5 million, then what am I doing right now that's stopping me from doing that? And this thing that I'm doing, why am I even doing it? I used to think it was great. Like, I've had people who say, you can only sleep 5 hours a day. Well, that's not necessarily true. Like, if you want to be rich, like, there's people who are rich and they don't sleep 5 hours a day. So, like, where did you hear that from? Who told you that?
Right, 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 right.
And for the kind of business you do, maybe you actually need 10 hours of sleep. Like,
Mhm.
you could be doing something that requires brain work, that or maybe you're someone who cannot even drink coffee to stay awake. Like, depending on your unique life, what are some of the changes you can make? That would be,
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. But then, so going back into just the flowers, right? A guy brings me lilies, right? But I like roses, right? So when we're talking about dating with integrity, right, and dating with intentions, a huge part of, yes, your experiences have shaped the things that you like, um, because you learn through the experience what you
that's
like
correct. That
and
is
what you
correct.
don't like,
Yeah.
right? So like, the reason why candles make me happy is because I have learned through my experiences that it brings me calm.
Through
And
your awareness and intention.
yep, that it's self-soothing. Flowers is something that, just when you see them, something about the beauty of flowers, right? So
Right.
if in particularly I like roses, right, and I'm dating a guy
Right.
who brings me lilies,
Right.
right, I can acknowledge his intention,
Right.
right? That's me showing gratitude,
Right.
me showing appreciation. Because some women will just be like, "This is not what I want," and that just completely, that's a huge turn off,
It's
right?
the awareness in you that's making you do that.
Right. But that's where communication comes in. And I think when people are dating, a lot of times they don't have compassionate communication or effective communication, right? And I think compassionate communication allows for it to be received in a way where the person can hear you and understand you, versus being offended and then be defensive, right? So because I love roses, I can tell this person, thank you so much. These are so beautiful. I'm going to add them along with, my favorite flowers, which are roses. I'm going to put them all together. There's a way of, saying what you need and being able to express what it is that you need and what it is, that you like, so the other person can know. I am not a fan of what I hear when people say, well, if somebody loves me, they should know. No one's a mind reader.
Right.
And I hear people, when dating, having these expectations of people, and they are not those things to themselves. They're looking for someone to complete them. They're looking for someone to fill a void. They're looking for and it's just, as you grow and evolve, I think you're going to eventually grow apart from the person, because
And
you don't even know who you are. You're
right.
looking for a relation. You don't know who you are. You don't know how to communicate. No one is a mind reader. How are you going to have a healthy relationship? That's not intentional. You're
Right.
not looking for someone you can do life with. You're looking for a person to soothe the insecurities and what's missing in your life.
Right.
Do you notice that with people?
That's huge. That's huge. I think one of the things I always say to people is, if you don't have it in you, you're not going to be able to recognize it in someone else. So,
right.
It's one of the things sometimes I talk to people and they say they want someone who's God-fearing. And I say, okay, great. How would you recognize this person? And they begin to tell me things like, he prays a lot, he goes to church, he fasts, he's a regular, he sings in the choir. And I'm like, okay, you apparently do some of these things. Oh yeah, I do this and I do this. So is this what it means to be God-fearing to you? Yes, that's what it means. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense to me. That if you see someone doing these things, but let's really explore that. What does it mean to be God-fearing? Sometimes we talk about honesty. When someone says, I want a guy who's honest, I want a girl who's honest, I want someone who's honest. Okay, how would you recognize them? Because at the end of the day, if you're someone who tells lies occasionally, you would give excuses to a guy who tells lies occasionally.
Yes. That's a good one. Yep.
You are someone who, one of the analogies I like to use, back in Nigeria, we would take buses, like over here, we have like bus passes or whatever, but back home, they would tell you the amount and you would pay cash. So one of the examples I like to give to some of my clients who are Nigerian is I would say, if you take a bus and the bus driver says, the amount you're going to pay today is $10, right? And you're sitting in the bus, and when you get to your destination, the driver forgets to take the money from you. And you get down from the bus thinking, whew, I have extra $10 that I'm going to use to buy myself something nice. You didn't pay the guy. You left. Now your partner comes back home to you and is like, oh my goodness, do you know I got on the bus and they forgot to take money from me and I was so glad? You're going to be like, me too. And both of you are going to be like, yay, we have extra money. But think for a second, if you're the person who, when you got down from the bus, you realized you hadn't paid and you ran after the bus and you said, wait. And you ran and you lost your shoe, or, you were like, no, I need to give this guy his money. I have integrity. I have to give him. And then you get home and your partner says to you, I didn't pay them, and I'm happy. Something in you is going to be like, why did you do that, boo-boo?
Yeah.
That's going to click. The red flag is going to, no, like, come on, that wasn't yours. And again, I'm not judging. I'm only saying that you have to be the thing. If you don't have it, you will think that you've seen it. And this is huge for a lot of relationships, because people say, I thought he was honest. I thought he was honest. He thought he was honest. He was showing you. He kept lying to you. But because it's inside of you too. And again, so once you begin to, that's why I said what you were saying is like huge, because it's a whole process where you need to begin to recognize those things in yourself and work on it, improve it, make it better. And then, do you ever find that when you're talking to people sometimes and
hold on, Samuel, your camera froze.
Oh, is it okay now?
Sort of, kind of. No, you're frozen.
It's probably the network.
Hold on. Let me see something.
Let me.
There you go.
Do I put it off and put it on?
I put it off and put it on. You try it on your end.
Okay.
Everyone, we're having technical difficulties. You'll be all right. All right.
Is it okay now?
It's a little choppy, but you're not frozen.
It's good.
It's not great.
Okay, so what do we do?
We're on a roll. We are on a roll. It's really good. But no, I'm Hold on, because I really want to fix this. This like our conversation is so good.
Let me try it again.
Let's try it again. Okay. Did you pop back in?
Yeah.
Okay. Still choppy. Gosh, gone it. Yep.
Do you want me to just maybe leave and then come back? Maybe that would help. Let me try that. Let me try that instead.
Okay, let's try that.
Yeah.
Let's try that. All right, everybody. Hold tight. We're having some technical difficulties and we're kind of doing it live. So that's the good thing. Okay, here we go. There we go. Yay!
It's better?
That's better. There we go.
Okay. All right. So I was just asking you a question. I said, have you ever noticed that people come to you? Oh, what was I?
Saying that they want someone that's honest, or they have these requirements of, you know, the characteristics of what they want in a significant other.
Yeah, it will come to me, but
Yeah.
I've forgotten though. Yeah.
But I do notice that, for example, what's really common? A guy, he has to make this amount of money, or a woman, she has to be able to know how to cook and know how to do this, know how to do that, and she has to, like, it's a whole list of things that they require for her to look and to be, and all these things. And for women, you know, he has to be able to, they give like this entire list, right? And the interesting thing is, they don't even meet their own standards. Like when someone says, I want, and not only do they not meet their own standards, they don't even know what it feels like for their standards to be met by themselves. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, like, if I say, oh, I want someone to wine and dine me, and I want a guy to spoil me, right? I'm able to recognize what that looks like, what that feels like, right? Because that's what I do for myself. Right. My thing is, I want, when I am spoiling me or whining and dining me, I will meet someone, right? Because I am aligning myself with my values. Yeah. So I will meet someone who will match me where I am. And what I'll say is, I don't want to meet someone who will treat me less
than you already treat
than I am myself, right? And that is not the language I hear a lot of people say when dating. And this is why I really say I need you to focus on yourself. I need you to focus on what loving you and caring for you, right? You say you want love, then what I'd like to do is I always ask for a character breakdown of what people value, right? So, and I do this all the time. So here are two examples, right? I value love. I want someone loving. I value peace. I want someone peaceful, right? So the character breakdown of love is slow to anger, right, quick to forgive, right, kind, right, patient, right, the willingness to hear, right, and understand, right? I can break down the characteristics of what I value. Right. And then I'll go into it and say, am I slow to anger with myself, or do I beat myself up and carry shame and condemn myself all the time? Right. Am I kind to me, or am I cruel? You know, do I listen to how I speak to myself? Right. Do I speak my own love language to myself? Right. I value peace. Right. No drama. Right. Low anxiety, low stress, grounded. That's that piece to me, though. That's the character. So, do I feel content and grounded? Right. Not saying that I'm perfect, but I am more of these things than I am not. And I can recognize when I'm not these things, and I can shift and say, no, you're acting out of character, right? Because that's not what you value. Let's go back, right? So being those things, a lot of people that I work with, they don't know what they value, but they require these things from others. So my thing is, even if they're giving it to you, do you even recognize it? Will you even be able to receive it when they give it to you? Because you don't even know what it feels like. And that's when you disrespect other people's efforts in you,
Right.
right? Because you're not even able to receive that love.
Yeah. You know, the breakdown that you're giving,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like slow to anger. I like that one. Slow to anger. Like, what does that even mean? Like if because
What does slow to anger mean?
yeah. And I'm not asking. It's a rhetorical question in the sense that
Mm-hmm.
if someone said that, like that's what I want, how would you know if someone was slow to anger then? How would you know? Like if you saw someone who was, how can you tell? And when people begin to think about that, then they might get to realize that. I'll give you a specific example.
Mm-hmm.
I worked with a client once who said to me, one of the reasons I got attracted to this guy is that he values family. And I said, "Oh, amazing. How did you recognize that?" And she
Mm-hmm.
said, "Well, he loves his mom. He takes care of his mom, and he's really great. They're close. Always sends her money. Super close to the mom." I'm like, okay. I'm just wondering what the connection is with him valuing family and
Yeah.
and loving his mom. And she said
Right.
his mom is his family, and I'm like, right. I wonder how that translates to you.
Mm-hmm.
Are you
Mm-hmm.
his mom? You're not. What are you to him? And then when we began to have that conversation, it's like,
See where you're going here.
what are the ways that someone would treat his mom that can translate to you?
Right.
Let's get specific. Let's dive deep into that.
Mm-hmm.
So, because at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, what am I expecting? Do you really want him to treat you as he treats his mom? Are you going to be ready to treat him as his mom treats him? And
Yeah.
then we got into this really interesting conversation about how some men can get into relationships expecting their wives or their partners to be their mom. And when the wife or the partner is not able to measure up, then there's problems. And then you're wondering to yourself, but why does he treat his mom that way? Because it's not, you cannot generalize the treatment of mom to the treatment of family. And you know what she said to me?
Mm-hmm.
She said, my sister married someone 3 years ago, and we thought he valued family, and he doesn't. How did your sister know? Oh, your sister saw that he was taking care of his mom, taking care of his dad, doing all these things. But when he got married to the sister, didn't value her. So you can see, and then this person also had a history of like growing up in a home where the dad didn't care about them, the mom didn't care about them, and there's that translation that if someone cares about their mom and their dad, and then so the point is really breaking it down to say, what does this mean? And the only way you can truly know the meaning of something is to embody it in yourself. You have
Mm-hmm.
to be able. And one of the things I tell people, like, there's a lot of relationship qualities that we need to have healthy relationships. There's a
Mm.
lot. There's truly a lot.
Give some examples so the listeners can start writing notes.
For me, one of the biggest ones for me is flexibility. And
Mm-hmm.
that's vague because there's a lot of things that come with that. Openness, the courage to be vulnerable, self-awareness,
Mm-hmm.
self-reflexivity,
Mm-hmm.
um, being able to regulate themselves.
Yeah.
One of the things that we talk about with trauma is how it essentially inhibits the executive part of our functioning. And this is huge because, when we talk about our limbic brain or our primitive brain,
Mm-hmm.
that's the survival brain. That's where a lot of the things that you see people do these days. It's, you see someone, they're amazing, they're respectful, they're everything, and then you do something, and then it's like, who's this person?
They snap on
They
you.
snap me. Like,
Yeah.
oh my goodness, and that's because they're back to that primitive brain. You've done something that's
Trigger.
triggered them, that reminds them of something that has taken them to a certain place. And even now we're talking about PTSD, and we're saying, look, it happens in small amounts every day. There's people who traumatize from situations. But anyways, that's beyond the topic of our discussion. But the point is, someone who's able to regulate. Can you piss me off and annoy me, and I'll be like, that thing you did, I didn't like it.
Right.
Or am I gonna be like, you know what? Go to hell. I
It's
hate you.
over.
It's over. And I don't mean it. You know what I mean? And then like 2 hours later, when I come back, you see,
Yeah.
to the executive thinking, I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, babe, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
So it's like, these are some of the qualities, and like I said, there are a lot, right? Maybe I would have written a list. I have like a whole worksheet for this, but the thing is, some of these qualities, it's about their skills. That you see, that's why the why is important. Where are you coming from? Because once you begin, and with the work you're doing with people, once you begin to ask them, where do you want to go?
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the things that you're doing that are preventing you from getting where you want to go? So now I've been getting in relationships, and I always have these situations where I'm always breaking up and coming back and breaking up and coming back. And I don't want that anymore.
Yeah.
Okay.
What they want is marriage.
Yeah, right?
You know what I mean? They want marriage. And it's just like, how are you aligning yourself from where you are now to getting what it is that you want? Because I always talk about not focusing on the absence of what's not there, right? But being in preparation and aligning yourself with what you believe you deserve as it makes its way towards you, right?
Right.
If you're completely acting opposite from the marriage that you want to be in,
Yes. Marriage means stability, right?
right?
Marriage means stability. Marriage means consistency. Marriage means commitment. But you're having these behaviors where someone pisses you off. You're like, I don't want to talk to you anymore. You block them on WhatsApp, on text messaging, on calls. So now, see, we're having a real conversation. What are some of the things that I'm doing that are getting into? You know what, Kiona? This is what I do. I'm
Mhm.
always, when I'm pissed off, and oh, I see. Okay, let's talk about one of those situations. What happened? This happened. This happened, and then I reacted in this way. And this is essentially the work that we do in therapy.
Yep.
This is how you reacted. Now, how would you want to react in that situation? So now this person is taking an intentional step towards being more regulated,
Yeah.
towards being more controlled, and that's how they get to achieve their goal of marriage. Because you see, someone who's regulated will run away from you. You see,
Mhm.
the only way someone will be in a relationship with you and marry you if you're not regulated is if they're not regulated. If
Mhm.
they sometimes lose their shit too, sure,
Mhm.
they'll marry you. But if they've worked on themselves and they're just gonna watch you and be like, oh, I
So
don't
this
want
is how you are.
this is how you are.
You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah, I don't want that.
And I always tell people, I say, understand who you are so that you can recognize who you are not, what you are not, right? And when you're in a relationship and you're dating, that's what the dating process is for. You know what I mean?
It's not for going out and eating food, and that's good. That's nice, and
Food is great, right? But when you're doing the intentional dating, right? The importance is let's find out what we value. Let's find out, how we experience ourselves, and if it's possible that we can experience one another in a healthy way towards the direction of marriage. Is that the way that you want to go, right? And it's okay if, because we are having a human experience, it's okay if you realize after a while, this is not what it is that I want. You don't have to try to shape and mold them into what you want them to be because you want this, and you don't want to be shaped and molded into what they want either. I use this term often. There are plenty of crayons in the crayon box, right? If you desire purple love and you're a red crayon, right? You don't date green. You don't date yellow. You don't date orange. You date blue. You find out if someone is blue, right? And if you're with an orange crayon, I don't care what you do. You're never going to end up with purple love. Not ever.
Okay.
So release them with love. Get a chance to be like, you know what? After this copter, after spending a little bit of time, you're an orange crayon. I'm a red crayon. And I know I need purple love. And I don't think no matter I can make you go to therapy with me. I can introduce you to my family. It doesn't matter. You're an orange crayon. I need to release you with love because there's someone out there, right? Who is who is just like, I want a certain type of love, and in order for me to have that love, I need an orange crayon. You're holding on to the orange crayon. Someone's praying for that, and just release it with love. Let that person get who they need, and go get you a blue crayon, and that be it. Because what I think people do is they damage each other recklessly, right, and selfishly, because they haven't taken the time to identify the type of love that they want. And then they try to change other people instead of accepting who the other person is, right? And that's what the dating part is for. And that's when we get to intentional dating. And I don't think people do that enough.
Look, listen. You were talking, and I wanted to interrupt you the whole time and just be like, yo, this is listen. This is the reason why it's so crucial to do the work yourself.
Yeah.
You see, the only way I can be compassionate about someone being a blue crayon is if I have accepted that I am purple, or that I want purple, or or I'm red, or whatever that color is. The only way you're going to be...
Yes, the acceptance.
Listen, you see, if I'm doing the work, okay, so say for example, I'm doing the work and I recognize that I'm not very good at regulating myself. And then I begin to do the work at regulating myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then I become better and better at it. That whole process of moving from point A to point B, I would have struggled. I would have tried. I would have failed. I would have had to be compassionate with myself. I would have had to give myself grace. I would have realized how difficult it is to actually change myself. And as I'm going through that process, there would have been a lot of acceptance of where I'm coming from. When I look at another human being who's struggling, it's not going to be with judgment. It's not going to be with annoyance. It's not. You see, if I said to you, hey, this is what you're bringing to this relationship, and you're like, no, this is who I am, I'm not going to change, I'm going to be so compassionate in letting you go, because guess what? I know the process.
Yes!
It's like, okay, brother, okay, sister, you know what? But you see,
yes!
if you haven't gone through the process of change, then you're going to be thinking it's so easy, and then you're going to be pissed at people for why they don't want to change, because you're out there trying to change people when you haven't changed yourself. You see, you're getting mad that guy doesn't want to stop going to the club. Have you tried? You know, I had a client once, and he said, well, I'm dating this person, and this person likes to, let's say, for example, this person likes to swim, and I don't like swimming. And I said, okay, so you're hoping that they would stop liking to swim? And yeah, they said, yeah. And I said, okay. Or it's either they stop liking to swim or you begin to like to swim. And they said, no, God forbid, that's never going to happen. Obviously, we're not talking about swimming. I said, but wait a minute. You're hoping that they would stop liking to swim when you are not open to liking swimming. See, because the
Mhm.
moment you begin starting that work in yourself of the process, and you know, you talked about this, Kiona, you talked about the flowers, right? You said,
Mhm. Mhm.
I've been through that process. I've recognized what flowers do for me. If you met someone that said, I hate flowers, you'd be like, okay, I know how that feels. Because, you know, like you've gone through the process of knowing what it means for you to have flowers. So if you see someone who says, I hate them, you're like, I get it, boo.
I can
Be
compassionately
like,
let
go do, yeah, like,
that
you know,
say
like,
compassion.
just
I can
be
release you with love. I say it all the time. I can
That's
release you
right.
with love.
That's right. And the reason people don't do that is because they don't know what the change process looks like. So they always project that. They want other people to change and they don't want to change themselves. So the moment you begin to go through change and you realize how hard it is, trust me. When you see people who don't want to change, you're just going to be like, I get it.
I
It's
get
okay.
it.
It's okay.
I'm gonna compassionately let you go and release you with love. I hope you find your blue crayon
That's
or
right.
your orange crayon.
That's right.
And there you go. And that is because now you're dating with integrity
Yeah.
and now you're dating with intention.
Yeah.
And so, oh my gosh, this was so good. Oh, we already did an hour. We have to come back with a part 2. We're coming back with a part 2, everybody. But this is absolutely so good. So for all of those, please send me some feedback. I would love to read it in the comments below. Any questions you may have. And Samuel, let people know where to find you if you're interested in services with him or following him and listening to him because he posts great content.
It's the Waking Human on Instagram, and you know, yeah, that's all it is, the Waking Human.
Okay. All right, everybody. We're going to come back with a part 2 because this is too good not to.
Right.
All right, guys. Remember, life matters to yourself and to others. The overspill. Take care.